Hi, I'm Michael Croker, and this is Park Life. I've worked in the Australian theme park industry for a little over 30 years, and in this podcast series, I spend time in conversation with the people inside the business of making memories. Thanks for joining me. I hope you can subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the ride. Caroline DUVEAU-CLAYTON is someone filled with passion and drive for the industry she loves. A long-standing corporate and special events maestro, her career has taken her across the world, and she continues to bring her seemingly boundless energy to her unique role within Village Roadshow Theme Parks. We sat recently inside a conference centre, as fate would have it, and talked through some of her paths so far. Now, the audio may seem a little odd. This is owing to the fact that we were recording our conversation on lapel mics, and surrounding noise from the air conditioning system did have an effect in the final editing process. Nonetheless, I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting Caroline in this week's episode. Let's just begin by getting it understood. How many years for you in the theme park industry?
I've been with Village Roadshow Theme Parks for 14 years.
14 years?
Yes.
And in what capacity?
Okay, so when I started here, 14 years ago, I was Director of Sales at SeaWorld Resort only. And then after about 3 years, the company merged the sales team from the events, from the parks and the resort. And so I got lucky enough to not only look after SeaWorld Resort, but all the magic of the parks as well.
And what year was that when that happened?
That was in 2009 or 10.
Right. Was that daunting?
Exciting.
Great.
Absolutely exciting. It was, I'm a hotel girl. I've always been in hotels. So for me, I was still getting my fix in obviously still looking after the hotel and the conferences and the accommodation and hospitality, as we call it, but learning all about, the park life.
So let's go back then. I like how you got the title in there too. That was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, my
a little bit of brand recognition.
My pleasure.
If we can go back, you just said a moment ago, I've been a hotel girl all my life. So before the theme park experience started for you, what was your career path? What were you doing?
So I started in hotels. I'm not going to tell you how long ago because I would be showing my age,
yes.
And you don't ask that to a lady, of
course.
But many moons ago, I started in Paris.
Right.
Okay, with the Meridian hotels. And how I got into it was I was looking to do a internship for some of the studies I was doing, which had nothing to do with hotels. And one of my friends had done her traineeship internship at the Meridian hotels. And when she told me that, she was a year ahead of me. And I'm like, ooh, hotels? Ooh. I've always traveled with my parents. And for me, just the word hotel was, for me, synonym of traveling and, looking after people and, just an exciting life. And I thought, ooh, I'd like that. So I went to do my internship in the finance department of Meridian Hotels in Paris. And after 3 months, they offered me a job because they obviously liked me. And there was a job going on in another department, and they offered it to me, and I stayed. And after a year, there was another job going on in the sales department of Meridian for the whole of Europe. Looking after the group business for all the North American hotels, South American hotels, and Asian hotels.
Wow.
So I would be sort of a European liaison, with the clients, to dispatch quotes, request quotes, etc., with all the hotels. And I applied for that, and I got it. And then the rest is history. Then. I did some sales calls in Paris with the general manager from the New Orleans property for Meridian. And we got along really, really well. And shortly after that, he was looking for somebody to develop the European market for that property. So I got the chance, and this was the chance of my life because New Orleans is close to my heart. I love that place. to move to New Orleans, to America for 3 years. And I was traveling back and forth from America to Europe, doing just, hitting the pavement, going to see all the clients all over Europe to sell that property in New Orleans.
What a life.
So mostly to incentive, conferences, so everything that I'm doing now, which is, really, my background.
Did you have good mentorship during that time? Was there key influences around you guiding your path?
Always. I was, I'm very, even today, I will be forever grateful for all the people that I've crossed paths with and who have believed in me and always given me a chance and were always there for me. So, most of my GMs, across the hotels, were always very helpful. I remember one particular lady in Paris, her name was Martine, and she larger than life and so inspirational, and I learned a lot from her at the time in terms of selling, and all of that. And it's been an interesting path.
How do you find yourself then in Australia, and where did you find yourself firstly in Australia?
I moved to Australia for love.
For love?
For love. So when I was in New Orleans, which was, some 30 odd years ago, I met my husband.
Fantastic.
Who is my husband now. He's an Aussie boy, true blue kangaroo, my husband, and backpacking around, and we met at the jazz festival in New Orleans, of all places.
So exotic.
I know, right? Millions of people around. We didn't have COVID at the time, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And he stood out from the crowd, I stood out from the crowd, and we met, and that was it.
I don't doubt that you stood out from the crowd,
Yeah.
because that's still the case. So you find yourself in Australia for love.
Yeah.
Where's your first port of call? Do you move back into the hotel industry here? And then and if you did, where was that?
Yes, so Scott had moved, so after New Orleans, I got a transfer to London, still with Meridian, and Scott met me in London, and then he wanted to come home. So we were a little apart for a little while by the time, because it was a big move for me to come all the way to Australia, obviously. He actually, he's from Melbourne, he picked the Gold Coast to leave because I'm actually an island girl. I'm from Madagascar originally. And he thought, if I move to the Gold Coast near the beach, I've got a bigger chance to get the girl to come here rather than if I stay in Melbourne. And he was right.
Yeah.
Sorry, to Melbourne.
Yeah.
But, and so he came to the Gold Coast. And at the time, so when I arrived here, obviously I was looking for work. And again, I came cross path with, somebody that, again, I will remember forever. His name was Don Good, and he was a general manager of the Regis South Bank Hotel in Brisbane. And he gave me my chance. And so I joined Regis South Bank as a DOSM, Director of Sales Marketing, at the time. And I was there for 8 years. So I was commuting back and forth to Brisbane, and and loved it.
When you say you love it, what's the attraction for you in that particular line of work, and what does it involve? You touched on it a little earlier in terms of sales and experiences, but could you give, for people that maybe don't understand entirely what a role like that means in that industry, what does it really mean? What are you doing in a role like that?
What do I do? Okay.
In the role that you're doing there.
That I was doing, or what I would be doing now?
Not so much now, because we'll get to that, but that period in Brisbane, you were saying, was it duty sales?
No, I was director of sales.
Director of sales, I beg your pardon.
So I was managing a team of catering sales, corporate sales, and obviously close to reservations as well. So, doing all your yield meeting, setting up rates, accommodation, obviously, selling conferences, putting out your, putting together your budgets, your targets, and everything, everything else, basically.
So 8 years there?
Yes.
What eventually draws you into thinking, I'll take these skills now and migrate them into the theme park industry? How does that happen?
Okay, so so that at the time when I left Ridges, I actually left to, I wouldn't say have a break because I ended up working really hard, but there was a time in my life where that particular year a lot of things happened on a personal level. I lost my dad. I was a bit unwell, and I think, and also Chloe, because I'm a late mum. Had my daughter. My daughter was only 3 at the time, and the traffic, as you would know, on the highway. I was always late picking her up. I was just, and then I felt that I had a big team that I was managing at Ridges. I remember at the time we didn't have laptops, we didn't have all these facilities that we have now to continue to work from home and things. So the time was a bit different, and then I felt torn. I felt torn between not being able to be there enough for my team, and not being able to be at home enough for my daughter and my husband. And it was a big decision, but one day I decided to leave. And I said that that commute and everything else, it was for my own sanity.
And can I ask you, were you going from something to nothing, or were you going from something to something? So when you decided to leave?
No, I had nothing. I decided to actually I actually went into real estate for a year.
Okay.
So I just wanted to change.
Yeah.
And I said, no, it's, I guess it was really a time where I had to take a drastic decision.
Yeah.
I had caught up that Christmas with one of my cousins. I went back to France, and we were chatting, and he actually planted the seed. Right. Because he's actually that's what he does. He's in the real estate in France.
Okay, right.
And he told me, why don't you do that? And I'm like, all I know is hotels. Yeah. And he said, well, you'd be great. You'll be looking after people. It's the same, because that's what I like in a hotel. Yeah. Is the hospitality. You look after people. Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe selling a room for one night or a house for a little bit longer, forever.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Yeah. So when I came back, I did my real estate license. I resigned, and I found a job pretty straight away. To be honest, I think, looking at the real estate perspective, hotel people like us, we very. I think the service side of it is ingrained in us. That that's what you do. You are very service orientated for your guests, all day long, and I guess that's something that they liked. And I have to say, I was there for a year, and I had a ball. Yeah, I had a ball.
What pulls you out of that after a year? Because I imagine after the real estate game, it's theme park time, right?
Or yes, totally.
Or was it SeaWorld Resort?
SeaWorld, yeah.
And at the time was the SeaWorld Nara Resort.
Yeah, it was SeaWorld Resort. Nara was already it just happened.
Just happened, okay.
Yeah, that Village Roadshow had taken over
from
I see.
Nara. Gotcha.
Yeah.
What drew you to that idea?
Okay, well, admittedly, hotel was always in the back of my mind because,
First love.
First love, exactly. Yeah. And I'm a pretty faithful girl. But to be honest, I'm going to tell you a story very candidly, but I had been running a contract for a house between vendors and buyers all night, okay? And until they finally say, Caroline, we don't want to see you tonight, go home, okay? So I went home. And, as I'm getting to bed, I could feel something on the pillow, piece of paper. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope it's not the divorce papers, because I hadn't been home a lot in a year. You work 24 hours 7. We work hard in hotels, but real estate was pretty all the time. Yeah. Anyway, and it was my husband, I actually found the job that was going at SeaWorld Resort. Huh. And he left it for me, and he's like, oh, honey, that sounds so exciting. It's got your name written all over it. And I'm like, you're right. And pretty much before that, I only ever worked in corporate hotels.
Right.
I'd never worked in a resort.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I thought, oh, straight away, I couldn't sleep that night.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait until 9 o'clock the next morning that I could apply for the job because I'm thinking, he's right. This is so me. And theme park wasn't even
A part of it
a
at that
part
time.
of it at that time,
No.
but just a resort, you know, and an icon. I mean, SeaWorld Resort is an iconic, you know, venue on the Gold Coast, and you know, it's you know, I was like, oh, and it's adjacent to SeaWorld, and you know, you're like, oh, so I was very, very excited, and that's how I ended up coming for the interview and meeting Mr. Pfister. And
when we say Mr. Pfister, we're talking about Ernst Pfister,
yes,
or as I think he loved to be known preferably as EP.
EP.
And I mean, EP is a whole other story.
Yeah.
He's a whole other episode because he himself was a titan in the industry.
Well, he was the longest standing general manager
Yeah.
in the industry that ever.
Yeah,
Like,
he was a force of nature. He used to call me song and dance man.
Yeah.
And I could never tell because he used to do it in a way that was so charming. I couldn't tell if he was having a dig at me or if it was a term of endearment. But I'd walk into a boardroom and it would be, the song and dance man is here.
Yeah.
And I always decided I'll take it as a compliment because I could never quite tell.
Yeah, no,
but he was a remarkable man. He's now retired, of course.
Yeah.
So was he someone that had a very big influence on you as you came into that world?
Yeah, very. I mean, you know, again, EP with all, you know, all his, you know, his standards, his vision, and everything else, was a great help for me, obviously, to adapt in a new environment, you know, and then obviously when, you know, the parks came into the picture as well, so yeah, no, absolutely.
One thing that's interesting, just in your story so far, tell me what you think, but you've never been afraid to reinvent. Like even from the time that you were talking about being in Paris, and I think, did you say you were firstly in finance? Yeah. And then these opportunities come, or you make the opportunity and you jump.
Oh, yeah.
And you land and you run. Where does that come from, do you think? Just to get off track for a moment, but where does that fearlessness to back yourself come from? Or are you conscious of it or unconscious of it? Because if you look at the trajectory of your career, you haven't been afraid to back yourself. Where do you think that might come from?
I actually was not conscious of it,
No,
I suppose. But I always think that if you don't try, you might regret. And I always think that it's like when you go for a haircut. If your haircut is not that great, your hair will grow back. Okay, it's a bit the same. Like when I went, you know, I studied in that department. I got given an opportunity. I always like to learn.
Yeah.
I always feel that you never know always everything. You always, until the day you die, you learn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And for me, moving to new horizons on my own, because when I moved from Paris, I mean, first I left home, obviously, moved to Paris on my own. I was living in Vienna, in Austria at the time.
Wow.
So yeah, took my little suitcase, moved to big Paris, you know, I'm like, ooh la la, you know. And then I moved to New Orleans on my own, didn't know anyone, didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, moved to London on my own, had no family there.
What's driving that? Because for a lot of people, the idea of doing something, even doing one of those things, would be terrifying. But you've never been afraid to...
No, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's learning new culture, living a new life, new horizons, learning, as I say, new things, you know, I mean, it's like, and it is giving opportunity. And for me, I always felt, I guess, confident that I'm thinking, well, if people believe in me to offer me that opportunity, I can do it. You know, and I will even go above and beyond, you know, to
over-deliver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
You know, but I guess it is the excitement of, you know, discovering, meeting new friends. You know, I did so many since I was little, because we moved around a lot with my parents. I think during 5 years I didn't do one school year in the same school, for example. So we were constantly So I've always been used to that, I suppose.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the excitement of the unknown.
It's interesting because my parents were Air Force, and so Dad particularly would be getting these postings every few years. So you were always perpetually the new kid.
Yeah, same here.
Always the new kid.
Same here.
And as hard as that was as a boy, I think as I grew, looking back, it puts in you a sense of independence and a sense of fearlessness about change.
Absolutely.
But you don't know you're getting that lesson at the time because it's happening in real time, and you only know what you know at the time, but you know it.
Because you see, before you mentioned it, I didn't even realize that. For me, it's just part of life.
Yeah.
You know, to go.
But it's interesting because a lot of the time, a lot of people will get in their own way and then miss opportunities or forfeit opportunities because they're overthinking the step or they're self-doubting whether or not it's in them.
Yeah.
And I guess even sitting down and doing these conversations for the podcast series, I'm finding there's a common thread in people that have managed to live lives based on a passion. The common thread seems to be even an unconscious sense of fearlessness.
Yeah.
That's what it seems to be. And that's in a variety of different backgrounds and in spite of gender and roles. So it's just interesting for me. You're at the SeaWorld Resort, and as you say, it's an iconic location on the coast and continues to be so. As that resort fixes itself to the SeaWorld park and they become completely linked, and then obviously Warner Brothers Movie World comes down the pipe as well and expands the universe there for you. How did you find that experience as it evolved? You obviously had to keep up with that evolution, but as the business changed its face and its offer, how did you find that experience for you in terms of enticing new clients and customers?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
In what way? What made that thrilling?
It's the magic.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big kid at heart. Okay, I'm very passionate. And I'm very, very, I'm very excited. But the little thing. I mean, just walking down Movie World and seeing Tom and Jerry. Yeah. Even I'm with my clients doing a site inspection, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, can I have a photo?" Like after all that time, and it's I don't know if it's because of my upbringing, because I grew up in Madagascar where there's nothing, obviously, So for me, growing up was always. Mickey Mouse at the time, the ooh la la, one day I'll go and see him in his house, know. But that's the thing, we grew up with different pleasures and different magic, but obviously not the theme park, magic. So now for me today, I walk through Movie World, through SeaWorld, and I get that, that sense of, excitement and magic. And for me, creating that for my clients, is and there's no limit, pretty much, of what our Shonen team can do.
Yeah.
Our own wardrobe department can create costume, which we've done for some events that we've done, and all of that is unique. Where else can we do that?
Now we should say, look, the first thought might be that it's an easy sell because the parks are everything you just described. But at the same time, it's a competitive marketplace and there's a lot of activity and a lot of options for clients to take up. And the parks still have to compete in that space.
Absolutely.
And you are obviously someone that is very aware of what the surrounding market is doing. And without giving away trade secrets, but how do you manage to consistently find a way to ensure that a prospective client can see that there's a very strong point of difference on what a theme park-based experience can be versus maybe a hotel venue, for example? How do you, is your job then to listen intently to what the client's thinking? I mean, how do you find a way to entice them over the line? What insights can you give us there?
I think you've got to, we always say salespeople talk and don't listen, but no, that's true. We listen, we do listen.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I wasn't listening. Go on, yes.
But it's, I think it's trying to obviously, we're almost matchmakers. Like it's really matching what we think might suit the client as well. you know. So for me, and I'm a true believer that, you know, without obviously any offense to any other venues,
Of course.
but some of the things that we can do at SeaWorld or Movie World, or you can't do it anywhere else. You know, so I think for a unique, you know, if a client is looking for something unique, like a unique experience, there's, you know, not many other venues where you can walk and you've got a sky with, you know, trillion fairy lights, you know, looking over you, you know, and having this, you know, sparkling, you know, venue at night, and having a Superwoman or Wonder Woman float escorting you to the dinner venue.
Yes.
You know, some of the examples obviously are, you know, endless. But I think it's that, you know, some of the epic, you know, moment that we can create, or like a dolphin show at night, or having a dinner at Shark Bay in the aquarium. I mean, there's a few aquarium, obviously, across in Australia. But
can you recall any kind of feedback you had from a client that made it all worthwhile? I'm sure you've got many stories, but when you hear back from somebody that just says, thank you, and here's why it was special. Do you get those little moments where you get reminded of why it's magical?
Oh, totally. Well, listen, I just had one in April. Okay, admittedly, I've been, you know, working with that client for a long time and trying to obviously convince them to come to us, and it's taking a while. Finally, this year they've booked their conference here at the resort, at SeaWorld Resort, and they had their welcome reception at SeaWorld at night time, and their gala dinner at Movie World.
Right, nice.
And at the gala dinner, which was the last night, the client, in front, obviously, of everyone, you know, said that, you know, thank you, the team, thank you, Caroline, for not giving up on us and persisting after 5 years.
Wow.
And we don't know why we waited so long, because it's been nothing but awesome. And thank you. And that is like, for me, it's almost like tears in the eyes, because you're like, you know, you've been working, you sometimes we work on events for like 2 years.
That's incredible.
You know, and when you see it coming to life and it's actually better than what you actually dreamt of, you know, and it gives you goosebumps, and even years later, when you think about it, you still have goosebumps. It makes it worthwhile.
So you have to be a collaborator too with the client, which I guess is one of the reasons why that pre-production period can be so long, because you're in collaboration, aren't you?
Absolutely.
So it's not a one-way street. It's not simply a case, for people that don't know, we open the doors, you book a room. It really is a case of, let's you and I sit down and understand what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. And again, some clients, we will, because remember as well that some conferences move around Australia. Okay, so if 1 year you've missed it, they might not come back to the Gold Coast before 5 years or 6 years.
Yeah.
And so it is a long process. It's not just obviously opening up, you know, the tap, you know, and you know you get theme park tickets or restaurant bookings or something. It's more like it can be a long process, especially for the, you know, the big national conferences, and so it's really, you know, nurturing, building the trust, you know, the relationship, you know, and then working together, finding ideas, and especially like with COVID, obviously, because we have to talk about the C word, which has affected, you know, our conference and events industry a lot. You know, it's really navigating through these stormy COVID waters, you know, to say, well, hang on, you know, can we exchange business cards now? Or can we have this, you know, like a morning tea in a table? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I guess, you know, in that case, it's really working together also with the client to, and also give them some ideas, you know, because they actually don't, not a lot of people know the extent of everything that we can do with the resort, with the theme parks, you know. So, you know, when we start talking about the possibility of, you know, using our venues for their conference, you know, it's really, so, okay, your dinners, what are you trying to achieve? You know, what do you want to do? You go, okay, I think that might work. Let's go and have a look. what do you think? You know, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they know their delegates better than we do.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of feeding, you know, some ideas, you know, and suggestions and theming, and you know, do you want to do a superhero? Do you want to do the glitz and glam, razzle dazzle night, or do you want the 80s?
Yeah,
Do you want to dust off your, you know, your leg warmers and, you know, so it's really, and then, you know, little by little you build, you know, it's almost like a little construction.
Of ideas.
Know? Yeah, and then you build, you know, and it's like you get to that, you know, climax, you know, of saying, oh, yeah.
There it is.
Look at it. There it is. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, you do this with a team of people around you. So I'm just curious from your perspective, in terms of leadership and fostering that team, and knowing you've been doing this for some time with a relatively small boutique kind of group, what makes for a successful team? Because you've got people that are obviously moving across all the parks under your leadership and guidance. How do you keep those people invigorated and connected? What's some of the processes to effective leadership in the industry that you're in?
It is it's a very, very, we've got a very, very intense role. Okay, it's never stops. You know, so whilst you would be in, you know, in retail or whatever, in the theme park, I mean, the park closes at 5:30, pretty much. We never stop.
Right.
You know, we could have a breakfast where we've got to be here at 5:30 in the morning to start, you know, helping the team setting up, or, you know, welcoming the client, making sure everything is okay, you know, escorting them out. Then you've got your day of following up, doing all your banquet orders and everything for your conference that might arrive the next day or something like that. And then you might have a dinner that night. So you could be there from 5:30 to 10 o'clock, you know. So we've got long days. I think we've got, communication is the key as well, because obviously things change a lot. We are not working in a static environment at the parks, as you know, where, you know, things move constantly.
Dynamic.
Voilà, very, very dynamic, where all of a sudden you could have, you know, some fencing being erected because we need to fix something, or things that sometimes you don't plan as well. So it's really, and this is, you know, in events, everybody, you listening and work in events will understand that you always have to have plan A, B, C, D, you know, just to, you know, adapt and be quick on your feet.
So communication is number one.
Absolutely. Communication is big. You know, I believe in leading by example as well. So I'll always be, you know, there for all the events, and not only, but also because I want to learn. I want to see, so, you know, one of my BDMs sold an event at Movie World or SeaWorld. What's your theme? What are you doing? Okay, let's check it out, you know, and sharing the information across the team. And listen, you know, when, you know, letting loose the pressure a little bit as well when, you know, if we go through a quiet time, like for example, January for us in events is pretty, you know, there's not much conferences, there's not much events, you know, so trying to loosen up the pressure, you know, a little bit, giving people a little bit more, you know, but it's, you know, and being there for them, and really helping as much as possible as you know, to put out the fires. As well, you know, knowing that they know that I'll back them up, like I'll be there for them, helping to, you know, sometimes to, you know, get something across the line, or, you know,
move obstacles where you can.
Voila, exactly. And I think that's important, is, you know, to, like I had, you know, because, no, my team need that, but I do too. You know, and having someone that you can relay, you know, for me, having someone that you can trust and rely upon at any time. If you need anything, you know that you can call that person and say,
I need your help.
Please help me. And that person is always there for you. Okay. Being quick as well, because as we get closer to delivering a conference and event, things move very quickly.
Sure.
Okay, so they would expect a quick answer as well. So, and in sales, you know, I mean, time is of the essence all the time. I mean, you're competing usually with a lot of people. If you wait, if it takes you a week or 2 weeks to get back to people, you're missing out. I mean, so us, we've got like a 24-hour turnaround, you know, so we need answers now. It's not going to be tomorrow, it's now. So for me, you know, during the day, usually that's why I work a lot at night, because during the day I'm available. We've got meetings. We do have a lot of events meetings across the parks, but also being there for my team, you know, if they need me.
You obviously have a lot of passion that you still use as a fuel to drive you and do what you do. That comes through. I was just curious then, what is the thing that gets you up and still keeps you passionate about this industry after all these years? What is the thing that continues to get you up in the morning and drive you?
Oh, it's my life. I don't know what to say. It's the excitement. And you know, in what we do as well in sales, and that's probably why, because I've, you know, many times I've been given like maybe some, you know, more managerial, office-based, you know, opportunities. It's not me. You know, I like to be out there. You know, I like to be talking to people. I like to be with my team. You know, I like to go to see Movie World at night time, seeing, you know, the event coming to life and all that magic. But really, yeah, what gets me up in the morning is exactly that. It's like, oh, what's going to happen today? Yeah. You know, like, you know, I always look at the exciting part of the job. I'm not going to dwell on, you know, there's always aspects of any jobs. Of course. You know, you've got to do reports. Yeah. I hope no one is listening to that.
It's only you and me.
But okay, good. You know, but for me, you know, getting here in the morning and thinking, okay, what will the day unfold? There might be an event going on, maybe a conference. I might get a call, you know, or I got an inquiry last night and I'm going to work on that today. What are we going to do for them, you know? And you can get the creative juice going.
Get it flowing.
You know, get it flowing, you know?
If you had to look back, I'm sure there's many, what's the very first thing that comes to your mind if I asked you, what's the proudest moment where you can remember either being on the streets at Warner Brothers Movie World or being inside SeaWorld or Paradise Country, Wet n Wild, wherever it might have been? Was there a moment that you can recall, if I had to ask you one, where you sat back and looked at it and went, yes, this is a proud moment for all of us?
Okay, except the birth of my daughter, because I have to say this was the proudest moment of my life.
I'm sure that was.
and my wedding, of course.
Of course.
You know, but...
Now, if you had to talk more about the theme park.
Okay, theme park.
experience.
No, but just in case my daughter listens. I love you,
I
my
get
chérie.
it.
I think, listen, out of all the events we've done, I think that the first one will come to my mind that, as I say, gives me goosebumps. Was an event that we did for one of my clients. That was about 3 years ago, and we did the Greatest Show.
Right.
Like a version of, you know, like circus Greatest Show night at Movie World. Oh my God.
What made that special for you?
Oh, everything. It was just like the teamwork that went into that. You know, when you look at something sometimes and you think all the stars aligned. Well, all the stars aligned for that particular event. So it was a circus-themed event, Greatest Show, you know. So at that same month where that event was taking place, we were switching over our shows at AOS.
Australian Outback Spectacular.
Australian Outback Spectacular.
Right.
And I was talking, obviously, because that's part of our job as well, is we don't deal with just one person.
No,
we deal with
multi-departments.
Everyone.
Of course.
Show and entertainment,
technical services, operations,
you know,
food and beverage.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
operations.
when you're putting something together, You've got to go to everyone, say, hey, can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we? What have you got in your bag of tricks
And
to
every
help
single
me?
one of those department stakeholders have to land you at the precise place that the client is
Voila.
expecting to land.
That's exactly it. So there's a lot of coordination. That's why
Yeah.
communication is important.
Yeah.
But at the time when I was talking to that client, and we were starting just the very, infancy of the event, and we were starting to see things develop, and and I'm like, and straight away you think, these bulb moments you get. I get a lot of bulbs moments, and I'm like, oh my God, hang on, I've got idea. Anyway, so I caught up with Shane from Australian Bad Spectacular, and I said, look, say props, things that I can get for that event. So we got the circus ring.
Right.
We got some of our team members. They are stilt walkers.
Yes.
And they were the clowns at Australian Bad Spectacular.
Yes.
Do you remember during that circus scene? So they obviously came to the event. And we got Ellie
the elephant.
Ellie the elephant.
So then these ideas start to expand
Voila.
upon themselves
Yes.
and take form and shape.
Yeah.
And then as you're describing, you're there on the night and you see it all gel.
The timing, the music,
Perfection.
the light, the massive, what was it like? 8-meter black red curtain in the middle of
Yes.
Main Street.
Yes.
Which was open at the right time. The magic, the bunting, everything was like,
As it should have been.
oh my God!
Yeah.
But even better.
Beyond that, yeah.
Beyond that, better than what I also had imagined. And that's when you know that you've had a successful night, is when stars in your eyes, the client is like, wow, like you can see the faces,
Yeah.
and their eyes lit up,
That's the payoff, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And when years later people still talk, that is one of the compliments. So many clients will tell me, my God, that event we did, you remember? Yeah. I say, I can't believe they're still talking about it.
And
Years later.
that is the very reason I guess we're all in the business of doing what we do. It's making memories that people can take away and they carry inside of them for the rest of their lives. And you play a very big role in that together with your team, and will continue to do so for years to come, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I am where I'm supposed to be. You know that feeling of, walking through the park at night time, seeing everything coming together, putting all the tables
And
together.
it feels like home.
Like that's exactly it. The build, and I still honestly get goosebumps. You walk into a movie world, even during the day, you got that music, and you got all the characters, and it's just so good. And with everything, I'm not taking too much, but I'm really looking forward to the few more, like the months that are coming, and the years, because there's so many. And that's the thing, it's ever evolving.
Ever evolving, yeah.
It's not, that's what I was saying before, it's not a static, they're not static venues, that it's always the same ballroom and it's always the same this, and it's always evolving, always moving, always new stuff coming up.
And I think, to wrap up, that's you too. And if we listen to your story, always evolving, there's always something new. And I think that's you as well.
That's what I
So,
like.
you're kind of tuned into the very essence of your own journey.
Yeah.
Thank you for sitting down and taking us through
thank
your
you.
professional life. It's been an amazing ride so far, and it's still got plenty of time ahead to come.
Absolutely.
And continued success in creating more memories for people from right around the world.
I will, absolutely.
Thanks for sitting down with me, Caroline. Appreciate it.
No, thank you so much.
Talk soon.
I'll see you later.
I hope you enjoyed this latest episode. You'll find Park Life on Twitter and me, Michael Croker, on Instagram at Mike_Croker. See you next time.